T-Mobile is already looking out into the year 2027. Big investor day, closely watched on the company here. Let's bring in T-Mobile CEO Mike Sievert. Mike, good to see you. I'll say fresh off the stage. I mean, coming out of the block here, you expect to add $10 billion in adjusted operating cash flow between now and 2027, or I'm sorry, I should say adjusted EBITDA from now until 2027. How do you get there? I mean, that's a big number.
It is. First of all, by being the growth leader. I mean, look, this engine that drives our growth is now proven. When we did our Capital Markets Day 3.5 years ago and said we would penetrate smaller markets in rural areas and get after enterprise and convince people we have the best network, there was no proof. But now we've got momentum on our side years later. Our most recent quarter, Q2, was the biggest Q2 ever in our history on postpaid phone net additions. And so it gives you an example that momentum's on our side because our formula is working. And so we've extrapolated what that business will deliver along with big transformations in the customer experience, which makes our business more efficient over time. I'll take it all together along with the network leadership that will only be further extended. And we see our way to $10 billion additional EBITDA at the high end of our guidance for 2027 versus last year.
I still remember that investor day in 2020. It feels like yesterday, but if you had to look back, I mean, how is T-Mobile different? How have you differentiated the company in the past 4 years? And what's the one thing that you think will be key to your growth over the next few years?
Network is the essential fuel of this industry. And when we made our bet back in the teens that the 5G revolution would unfold in mid-band on smartphones, not in millimeter wave on new gadgets and every other thing the industry tried to convince people of, it turns out we were right. And we were able to use the merger with Sprint to leapfrog everyone from dead last in the 4G LTE era to first and best in the 5G era. We have the best 5G network in the world and the most advanced one. And that's because we called the ball correctly. And now, the good news is most Americans still don't know it. Our network satisfaction and reputation is now right on par with the other guys, but it doesn't represent the superiority that the actual network does. So on reputation and brand, we've got lots of room to run.
Why do you think you needed to have this investor day now? Did you think the street was getting a little concerned that, hey, look, T-Mobile can't keep coming out here and beating on earnings every single quarter, and they can't keep doing what they have done since the last investor day?
No, it's just that the essential work from last time's complete. We said we would combine these two companies and complete the most successful merger of scaled telecoms in the history of the industry. And we did that. And we unlocked the value in excess of what we promised. And now it's time for the next chapter. And we've actually been quietly working on this for almost 2 years, laying the foundation for how we will use AI and data in our new IT architectures to create a bespoke experience for every customer in the future. And today we wanted to unveil those plans because investors want to know, after that historically successful run of the last few years, what's next?
Yeah, I want to get into what you did with OpenAI too as well. But before we do that, you've turned into the acquisitive CEO. Now, back in that other investor day, I think a lot of folks didn't expect after the Sprint deal integration, you're not going to go out there and spend billions of dollars to acquire companies, but you have been out there. You have made some big plays. I mean, how are these acquisitions going to change the company, and why are you making these bets?
Well, the ones that are pending are US Cellular, Metronet, and Lumos. And each of them has a different story, but US Cellular just fits with our overall portfolio fantastically. The company's always been great at smaller markets in rural areas, and that's a big growth strategy for us. And so it's just very, very complementary. In many ways, just like Sprint was, but on a much smaller scale. And then Metronet and Lumos are about us stepping in to become an owner in the fiber space and to create a national T-Fiber brand that will augment our 5G broadband, which is by far the fastest growing broadband product in the industry.
And what exactly have you inked with OpenAI? I mean, will that change the customer service experience? So I call up T-Mobile, maybe I'm talking to a bot, but a really smart one that might help me get off the phone a lot quicker.
Well, it's multivariant, but that's one of the pieces. Our job is to figure out first and foremost, how do we prevent the need for you to call us in the first place? Every time you finally have to call us, something's gone wrong. We haven't predicted your intentions correctly. And so Intent CX, which is the model we're creating with OpenAI, is all about using the vast amount of data at our fingertips to curate an experience for you at T-Mobile that makes your experience successful, so you don't have problems in the first place. And then once a problem arises, that we solve it as quickly as possible and as completely as possible, using real-time data at our fingertips in a way that humans couldn't do without this AI added on. Maybe the AIs will be interacting directly with people, probably will, but they'll also be helping to make our agents be able to give their service to customers using AI superpowers to make them smarter and better.
Do you think we're nearing the day or the point, Mike, where me getting a human on the phone to help me with my bill are nearing an end?
No. In fact, what we forecasted today is that there will be about a 75% reduction in calls offered to our human agents at our stores and in our care centers. But those remaining 25% will be some of the gnarliest ones. And so it will require a higher level of expertise, more experienced and seasoned people, probably completely onshore and domestic and full T-Mobile employees to be able to solve those problems. And so what it results in is a better job. Right? Today, the job's transactional. You call us in care because we have access to a computer you don't have access to. This era of AI and Intent CX will be able to eliminate that. What now you'll be calling for is because we're good at this. We have knowledge and experience because we do this all day, and you might do it, say, an upgrade to a phone every couple of years, and we got your back.
There's been some reports that the new iPhone has been mixed with meh. I mean, it's been met with meh type of demand. What are you seeing out there? And you think we'll still get that big super cycle with the iPhone 16 if the Apple Intelligence is not going to be all in there on this phone off the jump?
Well, what it might mean is that the demand cycle will be a little bit more stretched out as word of mouth builds after people actually get the AI features later. But already our sales are higher than last year. Last year was a good year, good iPhone launch. This year they're higher. We're seeing preference for the Pro versus the regular edition. We're seeing preference for the max sizes. So people are engaged and interested, as they always are, in what's next. We're seeing so far so good.
And lastly, Mike, I have to ask you this because you did study economics at the University of Penn. I mean, this is a big day for the Federal Reserve. They surprised the masses, 50 basis point rate cut. As a CEO of T-Mobile, how does a rate cut like that help your business? Does it lower your financing costs? Are you more inclined to maybe go out and buy another fiber optic business? I mean, this has to be a big deal for a lot of CEOs.
Well, first and foremost, the government, the Fed included, is all about making sure our economy is vibrant, not just for the short term, but for the long term. And that's important for T-Mobile, and for every company that serves consumers. We need to make sure that the consumer economy continues at, a great pace, doesn't get overheated, doesn't fall into recession. And so, we appreciate that. Now, I will say that T-Mobile's model is more resilient, in my opinion, to changes that might happen in the macroeconomic circumstances than perhaps our benchmark competitors. We have a long expertise at dealing with customers that have variable and sometimes difficult economic circumstances. And we have the best portfolio of brands positioned around value, which, if there's a change in the economy, will become only more important. But in this vibrant economy, generally speaking, correcting for inflation that's been difficult the last couple of years, our business is just on fire, and we're realizing some of the best growth in our history.
Like, let me just quickly follow up on that. I mean, do you see the consumer in a place that they need a 50 basis point rate cut? Are they trading down from certain T-Mobile plans to more Mint Mobile, where it's more affordable?
Not so far. In fact, people have been trading up at T-Mobile. And so again, and it's one of the things about our category that makes it different than some. I'm not the best CEO to be a canary in the coal mine on the economy because our customers will stick with us. This is an essential category. They will make sure that mobile phone bill gets paid, along with their rent. And so we don't see the early signs of softening. Our bad debt remains, right around pre-pandemic levels, really good levels. By the way, better than any of our benchmark competitors. So T-Mobile customers are the best payers, and they value this mobile service that they get from us.
Mike Sievert, always good to catch up with you, and I'm sure we'll be continuing to follow your story through 2027 and beyond. Mike Sievert, good to see you.
Great to see you.
Talk to you soon.
All right, our thanks to Mike Sievert, CEO of T-Mobile, and of course our thanks to Executive Editor Brian Sozzi for bringing us that conversation as well.